For the adults, I would like to talk about this topic of blessing. It's not the easiest sort of term to get your head around, and yet some years ago I read this terrific book, Sacred Fire, by a guy named Ronald Rolheiser. And he had a chapter that talked about this idea of blessing, specifically one person blessing another, or as you'll find, it even applies to God blessing us. And Rolheiser pointed out that a blessing, a true blessing, has got to have three parts. You need to speak well of the person you're blessing. You need to be grateful that they are part of your life, and that you need to say that and show that. And you need in some way to help them, to resource them, if you will, so that their life is a little better. This is best understood by some examples. So the one I did for the children, you'd appreciate that. You'd be an unusual adult, I think, if you look back at your past and you have no story of when you felt rejected or you felt not welcomed. And if you can think of that story and then picture what it would have been like if someone had handled that differently, that person in that moment would have blessed you. Jesus in this story is blessed by his Father. This moment when Jesus comes out of the water and he receives the Spirit and he hears this voice, "This is my Son, in whom I am well pleased." That is a blessing. And Rolheiser thought that it was a critical moment for Jesus, that by being blessed by God in that way, it allowed him to bless other people. In other words, as we are blessed, it enables us to bless others. This is a good example of this, is one that he used in his book that would, I think, explain to you or illustrate for you the power of a blessing. Picture, if you will, a college professor, just a remarkable man, an excellent teacher, an excellent lecturer, knows his stuff, publishes, just the sort of guy that it no longer was necessary to vote for Professor of the Year at the school because everybody knew that he was going to get this. And then, of course, as you can imagine, though, as time moves on, he gets older and he loses perhaps a little of his enthusiasm, if you will. Just can't physically do some things he used to do, has to cut back on his teaching schedule. And about that time, the university hires a new person to come in. And this new person is young and vibrant, and he too is done lots of research. He's published a book. He's known for his excellent teaching. So imagine what happens when this new guy shows up. What does the veteran teacher, this man who has held the top of the heap for years, what is he going to do? Some of you have been in work situations where this has happened. And the person that was at the top of the heap, they want to hold on to it. And so they, in some ways, some subtle ways, they'll actually undermine the new person coming in. But imagine Rolheiser asked if the first faculty meeting where these two men meet, if the older professor walked right over to the younger guy, stuck his hand out and said, "I am so pleased to meet you. I have heard so much about you. I know of your book. I know of your research. I have heard you are a wonderful teacher. I have given my life to this university, and my time is passing, and I am so thrilled that somebody as talented as you is going to be here to take over and to do yet more for this university than I could ever do. And if you need anything, if you need anything at all, please come and see me." That is a blessing. The older guy would have blessed this younger guy, and notice you don't need to use much of your imagination to know what this would do for that younger person. He now realizes, I'm in a safe place, if you will. I don't have to worry about university politics. I don't have to worry about, trying not to offend the old guy. He's got this freedom now. He's been blessed. I bring all this up in the hopes that you, as you think about it, would consider blessing other people. Sometimes we think, oh, I do that, but maybe not. I don't know what your experience was with your parents. It might be like mine. That, yeah, I think if I go back and think about it, I think my dad blessed me, but it was in a lot of little, small, subtle ways. I can't tell you the story of the moment where my father did for me what this professor did, what a child on the playground did in that example, what the Father did for Jesus. And so you and I, we have to work at this. We got to really try. And if you want, you can also think too of not only people that are close to you, people that are part of your life, you can think of others. You and I have the ability to bless other people, perhaps people we don't even know. And I've been thinking about the poor. I've been thinking about the poor. What does it mean for you and I to bless the poor? That's a biblical command. That's all over the Old Testament. The Lord calls us to be kind and gracious to the poor, to bless them. Well, according to Rollheiser, that means that we would speak well of them, which for some of us is going to be a bit of a challenge. We have a tendency to just assume that someone who's, not doing well, that it's their fault, that they made bad choices, that they aren't putting forth much effort. That may be true, of course, but we don't actually know. And so the possibility exists of us speaking well of them, maybe not based on what they do or don't do, maybe just based on the fact that they're a child of God, that they're one of us like that. Maybe we have made better choices, but maybe we set that aside to speak well of them because they're human beings. And can we be delighted that they're there? Well, it's a little awkward too, because certainly I hope I'm not the only one who's been at street corners and looked at people that are panhandling and just basically say, oh, I wish you weren't here. I feel awkward about this. It would be better for me if you were not there. And so we'll have to work at that. And again, maybe what we need to concentrate on is not what they're doing or what they did or any of that. Maybe we just need to concentrate on the fact that, again, they're a child of God, and I'm grateful for any person, any child of God to be around. And finally, you have to resource them. You have to be willing to provide some help. And I appreciate that is one of the more tricky topics. How do you do that? How do you help the poor? Some are comfortable giving money to homeless and panhandlers. A lot of people aren't, and that's okay. I think you have to work this out for yourself. I think the goal is that we can bless the poor by helping somehow. Maybe that is. I had a friend who years ago worked in downtown Tampa, and every Sunday she put 5 $1 bills in her car. And over the course of the week, she gave those $1 bills out. And when they were done, she quit giving them out and did not feel guilty about it because she was convinced that the Lord had put that on her heart, $5 a week for the poor. I know there are people here who every week, every couple weeks, they drop money into the poor boxes. I don't know if you know that all that money goes to the St. Vincent de Paul Society, and those people, that organization are volunteers. They help people who are behind in electric payments and rent and things like that. It's a wonderful help to them, and that is a wonderful way to bless the poor. There's also every third, most months, third week of the month, we take a second collection. That's called our outreach collection. And some of that money goes to the food pantry. Some of it also goes to St. Vincent de Paul. So money that you put in that second collection, that also helps the poor. The last possibility is the Catholic Ministry Appeal. Some of you might have just recently gotten the yearly letter that you get every year from the bishop asking you to once again support the Catholic Ministry Appeal. It does a lot of things. For those of you who don't know much about this, it's a ministry, it's a fund that supports all the ministries of the diocese. And my favorite of all that is Pinellas Hope and Hillsborough Hope, Pasco Hope, these Hope Centers. The Pinellas Hope one was near my last parish, and I knew a lot about it. These are centers that they do some housing of people that would otherwise be out on the street, and it's permanent housing, tiny little spots for them. And they do that because there's no alternative. But mostly, Pinellas Hope tries to take people off the street and get them to help them find a job, get them in stable housing, things like that. They try to help. It's a huge place. 250 people are on that campus on a given day. It's a lot of people. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of money. And so in my last parish, since that was so close to us, I was thrilled that people from all over the diocese would give money that he ended up there, because otherwise a lot of that would have fallen on my congregation, and that would have been a burden. And so that's another way that you and I can bless the poor. It'll take a little work. We'll be sacrificing. Maybe we have to change our thinking in order to think well of them and rejoice that they're around. And certainly giving money, that you're taking stuff that you could have used the money for and saying, no, I'll give some of this to the poor. But I encourage you to do it, because a lot of us were never blessed well when we were younger. And that has left a mark on us. And the way out of that, the way to deal with that, the way to get to a point where you feel blessed is not to stand in front of the mirror and look and say, oh, you're a terrific guy. Like you can't do that. You can't bless yourself. But by blessing others in an almost mystical way, that blessing somehow returns to you. And so as you bless individuals in your family, your friends, workers, kids in the playground, as you do that, and as you bless the poor, you will bless yourself. It will change your life. It will change the way you feel. And so it is worth doing it. And so especially if you've never had an experience with this, please think about it. Give it a try. On the front page of the bulletin, I've listed those things again, talked about it a little bit. Hope you'll take a bulletin home, really reflect on this. This is important. It will change you, and it will certainly change other people.